You ever dreamed of entering someone else's consciousness, exploring their darkest thoughts and most intimate secrets? With Transference, we're bringing a... No.
I guess you could argue there were two main themes to this year's E3 conferences. Number one, there are too many guns. And number two, everyone is gay now. Everyone. It's been a bit of a frustrating watch, to be perfectly honest, as we've borne witness to a slew of gorgeous games, including many which appear to tackle difficult subjects, but in all likeliness will end up being distractingly apolitical, utilising acerbic imagery but failing to commit to any narrative they deem too alienating. It's not political, they insist, even as they wave a burning flag in front of a ruined capital. Sorry, Ubisoft. I'm really excited for Assassin's Creed Odyssey, but you've been pissing off a lot of people this week. Throughout this year's expo, I find myself returning to a question I feel has been largely left unanswered, one that has been the central theme of my channel since I hooked myself into the Static Canvas brand, and one I'm not even sure has a solid answer. Who is the voice of the medium? This is something I've been thinking about a lot this week, following hours of conferences in which excited creators dull our ears with well-meaning but ultimately aimless jargon, talking of experiences, of togetherness, of the things they love about the medium. And in their defense, a lot of that jargon holds fragments of truth within it. This is a great medium. And what's great about it is its breadth. It's a place where Halo Infinite and a small game about a lovely fox can share the same stage and elicit the same excited response, where single-player and community-centric interactive experiences nestle neatly alongside one another, rather than trying to drown each other out. But still, that question remains. Who is the voice of the medium? Art is a reflection of the soul. It means something. It is a window into other minds. One cannot truly know their neighbour, but through artistic expression at least they can glimpse a reflection of true selves. While interpretation is a fundamental feature of art, there's a very clear onus on the artist to provide the canvas, the cipher, and above all the voice of the work. They claim ownership of the message, even if it is one in a fluid state. Interactivity complicates this symbiosis, but, in a good way. Potentially. I've had an absolute blast with games that follow the conventional artistic matrix over the years. Curated experiences that leave enough to interpretation to make people think, but are specific in their vision. These titles offer their audience a chance to participate, but always on the artist's terms. The games of E3 this year have had a very specific and narrow idea of openness. Choice matters, but only in a small number of ways. It's all about cause and effect, giving the player the reins, but also a guidebook explaining what the consequences of their actions are. And that's fine. A lot can be gained from this particular lens of game design. But maybe it's time for AAA to take the plunge into new waters. A couple of things this week have reminded me that the real pioneers of the industry are, sadly, not the trendsetters. The first is that Death Stranding trailer, or specifically the first half of that Death Stranding trailer, where Big Norman Reedus is trekking across an unpopulated land. I remember being thrilled at the idea of a man alone, pushing himself across a beautiful but hostile terrain, left with only his thoughts for company. I also remember being utterly dismayed at the sight of a gun and the realization that this idea couldn't possibly be the whole deal. The second is largely unrelated to E3. I was reading an article by Sam Greer on the lessons Rockstar could learn for Red Dead Redemption 2 from Westorado, a game I was aware of but had never played. Sam talks about how Westerado's greatest strength lies in its handing over of authorial power to the player. She writes, "Even in the context of a largely light-hearted little game, Westorado still managed to punch hard with certain emotional beats because they were of my own making." If you've followed me for a while, this will no doubt sound very familiar. This type of player-centric storytelling is something I have championed in games like Stardew Valley, Firewatch, and Her Story, because when a joystick lies in your audience's hand, no matter how well written, no story will ever be as good as the one in their head. So, studios should probably lean into that a bit. Death Stranding will probably be a fascinating experience with a suitably wild story that we could only get from a Kojima game. Ghost of Tsushima looks stunning and will no doubt offer a visceral and exciting narrative. As utterly uninspired as Days Gone may seem, I'm sure that when it launches next year, SIE Bend Studio will have provided something that will mean something to certain demographics. It's all good, even if it might not be your cup of tea. But perhaps now is the time to put down our rifles, wipe away our map markers, make choice less about a menu of calamities and more about player expression. That Cyberpunk trailer was pretty bitchin' though, wasn't it?